What our subject is about, honestly, about fermentation and about the gut biome and how these two work so well together. And I'm just going to give you a second to tell us a little bit about Fermented Homestead and Crunchy Cultures and kind of what your background and how you all got started in this.
All of this kind of started with my own health journey. I was incredibly overweight. I was very unhealthy. I was miserable. And then I came upon Sandor cats and the art of fermentation, and decided to kind of go down that route, and just eventually got obsessed with fermentation and the flavor of it. I'd always loved pickles and sauerkraut and all of that since I was I was birthed from the womb enjoying sour food.
Right.
So, and I didn't even know until then that it was actually fermented. Right. And then it kind of just went down there, and I started to do a bunch of research. I have ADHD, and the power of the hyperfixation and I just go down this road and nothing will deter me. Right. And so I kept getting more and more fascinated by the fermentation and the health benefits of it and the science behind it. And it just kind of took off from there. I started a YouTube channel and because nobody in my real life cared about it. So I was like,
listen, it's a common thing.
Yeah, so I'll just share it with everybody on the internet and kind of connected with people in that regard. And it just kind of spiraled from there. And then we moved to Missouri about 3 years ago, just about coming up on 3 years. Right. And
where'd you move from?
Washington State.
Well, wow, big move.
It was a very big move, yes.
But you're not the first person we've met that's made the trek.
Yeah, if you talk to us, you'll find out why.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting place to be. It's beautiful up there, don't get me wrong, but we're definitely glad that we made the trip. And I was just looking for something to sell at the farmer's market, and eventually I was like, why don't I just make ferments? And then it kind of took off really quick. People really enjoyed it. And then it kind of spiraled from there.
Okay, well, good. Now, listen, I'll ask, did the homesteading come first before the health, or did the health come before the homesteading? I mean, what got you into homesteading, I guess, is my...
It was probably the health first. I'd always wanted to live, out in the middle of nowhere, but the homesteading kind of just... you just learn things. You're just like, I just want to grow my own food. I want to... I am a very introverted human being, regardless. If you see me in public, you probably won't guess that because
we can relate.
But when I go home, I just want to be alone. I just want to be left alone and do my own thing. So I think probably the health came first. But I mean, I was raised mostly in the country, and so it just was natural.
Well, I just asked because I mean, very much like the fermentation. I mean, something in their life drove you to that, and it kind of facilitated that desire to go that direction, and we find that to be a common thing. So tell us a little bit about, I guess, how fermentation works. I guess would be a good way to do it.
Well, fermentation is very similar to pickling in the flavor, except it's not as sweet. It's got that tart, acidic kind of vinegary flavor to it.
Right.
And the natural process actually works. Just you add salt to it, and you massage it in, you cram it inside of a jar, and you leave it to ferment on the counter for a couple weeks, couple months, however you'd like to. And the naturally present bacteria that are on everything, especially these vegetables, they will go to town, they'll go to work, and their byproduct is lactic acid. And they break down the food so they're easier to digest. And it's a very, very simple process. And
so basically anybody could learn how to do this. It's not even complicated.
Absolutely. It is one of the easiest things in the world. If you can cut cabbage, you can make sauerkraut.
Okay. Now I'll ask, I already know the answer, so I'll ask the question so that they get benefit. We go to the store, people go to the stores and they buy probiotics, and they buy all these things versus this way. What's the benefit to this over just the convenience?
Probiotics are very convenient. The downside to probiotics is it's a very select strain, typically lab grown, so it's not going to be things that are necessarily out in the world. Things that we are created to be with,
Okay.
And but they have their place. They absolutely have their place. Most specifically, if you're looking for a very particular strain, because every type of bacteria does something different. They overlap a lot, but they each have their own strengths. If you look into the science behind it, there's a ton of research on a lot of different particular strains, and they do very specific things. A lot of things help with mental health. Some things help with leaky gut. Some things help with just everything. And so if you're looking for something very specific, Probiotics are great. However, they're incredibly expensive.
Yes, they are.
You can get an entire bottle. Actually, Dr. Mercola sent his sauerkraut off to be tested in a lab, and he found that a 4-ounce portion, 4 to 6 ounce portion, had 10 trillion bacteria in it. And so, I mean, a jar like this is equal to, I believe what it said was 8 entire jars of probiotic supplements.
Wow.
This is $11.
I would say that's efficient.
Yeah, this whole thing is $11. So if you're talking like 10 trillion times however many,
wow. Okay.
That's a lot of, it's a good bang for your buck.
Absolutely, I would say so. Now, I read or heard and read recently that the gut and the gut biome is about 70% of the immune system. 80, see?
It's actually
even
80.
higher. Okay,
Yeah.
even better.
Yeah.
But so I guess that's all the more important about what we put in. Now, you made a comment that health and kind of what, already liking this, but then your health concerns. How much of a difference have you noticed in your overall health since you started?
It's night and day. I can't even believe that the way that I felt before I found fermentation felt normal to me.
Right.
It's like when you're really sick, when you have a lot of mental health struggles like I had and still have, you don't realize how good you can feel. Like you're just like, this is my normal. This is how you're supposed to feel. And then you start to do all of these things to improve your health. And you're like, oh my gosh, how did I even do that? And especially if you kind of backtrack a bit like I've done. I've got up and down. Everybody's got the roller coasters. And you're just like, oh my gosh, I miss feeling that good. So clear in the mind. For me, the byproduct of getting healthy was losing weight. I was 300 pounds. Like it was, I was a hot mess. It was terrible.
Right.
But that was just a very small benefit was losing a bunch of weight. The main thing was that the mental health. I struggle with depression, anxiety. I got the ADHD. My brain's going 50,000 miles an hour.
Right.
When I'm consuming these or any fermented foods whatsoever, it's so clear. It's like I'm happier and I just feel incredible.
Right. Now we've heard the statement, and we've even uttered and used and shared and received that our food is our medicine, or should be our medicine,
Yeah.
right? And so it leads me to the fact of so many people are dependent and even I would say addicted to the centralized food and the processed foods. What's an easy first step they can take to kind of begin to move this direction, not just in fermented, but in a healthier lifestyle as well as including this in that rotation?
The thing that helps me the most is eliminating sugar anywhere possible. Sugar is one of the most addictive substances that you can have. I've heard that people say it's more addictive than illegal drugs.
Right.
And I found it to be very true. It's a very slippery slope for me. I practice mostly carnivore. I consume meat, predominantly beef, and a ridiculous, ungodly amount of fermented foods and drinks. And that's all I consume. If I have even accidentally a little bit of sugar, it's like, oh my gosh, I just go down this path that I just don't care to go down.
Right, I got you.
And I'm a little bit better about recognizing that now. If it happens accidentally or just like a little something, I'm a little better at putting the brakes on. But it's a slippery slope, and if you cut that out, it's a couple weeks of misery. You will absolutely be miserable. But if you can eliminate as many sources of sugar as possible, you're gonna be a happy camper.
Okay, great. Well, now I know that typically we see kombucha and we see kimchi and we see kraut and those types of things. What about like fruits or even meats?
As far as like the gut health benefits,
The fermenting process.
meat is it is its own category.
Right,
It's not necessarily one that I particularly care to go down.
Right.
I am not trained in that area. I know there are a lot of people who make like hams and they make the salamis and the all of the things, and it is something that needs to be entered into with a lot of knowledge.
Okay.
And mad respect to those who can do it successfully.
Okay.
However, I'm terrified of that, and I've never gone down that road. I will happily purchase from somebody who's well trained in that area. But fruit is great to ferment. It's fantastic. It ferments very quickly.
Okay.
It's usually you'll have to add like a starter culture or something because it can go so quickly that oftentimes it will just go in its own whatever direction it wants to go in. So if you add a starter culture to it, and by that I mean like a previously fermented something. Like if you add a little bit of a kombucha to kick it off, or if you add a little bit of a previously fermented wine or something like that hasn't been pasteurized, it'll kind of guide it in the right direction.
Right.
Or you can even add commercially purchased yeast.
Okay.
And it'll definitely go in the wine direction. But
Okay.
you can do it, and it has good results. Tread very lightly and with incredible amount of knowledge into meat.
Okay. So a lot of reading and a lot of studying ahead of time. And
With meat, yes.
yes. And I understand. I knew that was an old preservation technique
Yeah.
from the back in the day.
Yeah,
you know.
and it definitely can be. But the reason that I'm so hesitant about entering into the meat is that's actually where the term botulism came from.
Okay.
It comes from the root of the Latin word for sausage.
Okay, well, yeah, we don't need to do
Yeah,
that.
so
But and
tread
besides, I
lightly.
don't want to ruin a good steak.
Take some classes.
I don't want to ruin a
Yeah.
good steak. But
I know, right?
But anyway,
You don't need a steak, just like a minute on each side, and you're good to go.
I know we were having that conversation coming over here of the people who want like crusty shoe leather, kind of like, I mean, nothing moving in it versus, that warm pink center or whatever, where
Yeah,
it's.
that is my son, and I'm embarrassed every time he eats a steak.
I had
offense.
a friend that was literally, he's like, knock off the tail, knock off the horns, flip it over and hand
Yes,
it to me.
thank you.
Yes.
I'll even eat it uncooked if it's from a good source.
Okay. Not going I'm not going that far, but good deal. But yeah, I've been reading on the carnivore thing, and that's why I kind of like, the meat protein source and such.
I am a carnivore evangelist.
Okay.
I'll tell anybody and everybody.
So fermented and carnivore, folks. I mean, that's but I've seen and I've read and studied the health benefits of going that route.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, listen, I got a big middle section and it's all come from processed food.
It's a hard one to get away from.
It is. And making steps, but it is a tough one. So I grew up eating sauerkraut, and I'll be honest with you, Mama cut up hot dog wieners and threw them in there with and stuff.
It's great.
I ate so much of it, I just too much. But how does this go to? I mean, because like I got bad memories of taste.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, how do we get away from the sour versus just a tart? Or I mean, because I see different colors and stuff here. Is that flavoring?
It is. Well, this one in particular it's green and red cabbage, and there's mustard seed, cumin, and juniper berries in there.
Okay.
You can definitely add different spices. You can add different ingredients. Like you can try with like carrots or carrots, onions, garlic, just about any vegetable you want. Probably want to steer away from broccoli because it's sulfuric and it kind of adds a weird flavor. Right. But you can just experiment with anything you like. And I always like to say everybody has their starter ferment. Right. Everybody has their thing. This one is a one that almost everybody enjoys. This is the one that turned my husband towards fermentation, and now he's almost about half as obsessed with fermentation as I am.
Well,
I don't think he could get to my level. It really does, and that's the one that turned him. It's got carrots and onions, jalapenos, oregano. It's really good, and so you just kind of find the thing that you enjoy. If you like it raw, there's a good chance that you're going to like it fermented, and you can also try if you're fermenting it at home. Just don't ferment it for as long. And it won't get quite as sour. There's nothing you can make a ferment today and consume it in 2 days. There's nothing dangerous about it. There's nothing wrong with that. And then typically I find the more people consume fermented foods, the more sour flavor they enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll ask another question. Now I'm assuming homesteading. You grow a lot of your own.
Not really, no.
No, really. So store or buy from a farmer's market or buy from.
I do. I buy from a farmer's market, and for the business, I obviously have to buy wholesale because I go through such a tremendous amount. But I am working with some local farmers, and they're growing some crops for me right now. So, that is the direction that I would like to go in, is almost exclusively sourcing from where I am. I'm from South Central Missouri. So any farmers out in South Central Missouri, hit me up. I'd love to work with you. But yeah. I mean, I do have a garden. Right. It's just I have way too much going on to be able to successfully grow anything in it.
I understand, but I mean,
weeds.
It's okay. And that was kind of leading to the point that, folks who don't have a garden, or they're not growing cabbage and they're not growing stuff, but they can go to a farmer's market or even a store
absolutely,
and then come home and do that exact same process.
Yep. Okay, exactly the same. You definitely do not need to have your own garden. It'll work exactly the same. It'll ferment if you're like literally going out to your garden, picking vegetables, coming inside and making sauerkraut, it'll ferment quicker.
Right.
Because it's got all the freshness to it. It's going to be much more watery. So you might have to have a little brine if it's a little bit older, but absolutely don't let that stop you.
So literally a guy in a college dorm could
100%.
Okay.
I mean, as long as his roommate's not against it.
Yeah. Listen, I was in the Army for a lot of years in the barracks, and guys did kimchi and stuff, and oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. So I understand the pain of that, because I was like, oh man. but but that's maybe what turned me off to some of it, is like having to deal with that aspect when I was young, you know. But that's cool that it's so. I mean, it's honestly that simple.
It is.
And so once it's fermented and it's in the jar and it's stuff like that, shelf life,
In the fridge,
right?
almost indefinitely.
Okay.
I have to put an expiration date on there because the health department
Legally.
requires to me.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I put an expiration date of a year on there,
Okay.
and then but other than, I mean, really, I've consumed it up to like 18 months, and that's just because I ran out. It could have kept going longer than that.
And I asked that question because assuming somebody, you know, wants to store a pantry or a larder room and they want to keep, or, you know, or a cool room and they want to keep things for a long shelf.
Under 55 degrees,
Okay.
it will almost stop the fermentation. It'll continue to kind of ripen almost like a fine wine,
Right.
but it'll still be really good.
Okay, awesome. See, that's good. I mean, 'cause so it's an immediate consumable, just about,
Absolutely.
but also then can have some shelf life.
Yeah, it's definitely a form of preservation that's been used for centuries,
Okay.
millennia.
Well, where can folks find you?
Crunchycultures.com, and
Okay.
I'm also on YouTube with the handle of Fermented Homestead. And I'm just at farmers markets around Springfield, and I do various festivals like this one, festivals and expos.
Right.
And again, crunchycultures.com. We just got our shipping boxes in, so hopefully we'll be offering shipping within the next week or so.
Awesome. Well, let's say there you go. You can order it in. It comes up, shows up at your door, and
Absolutely.
you know, life's convenient that way.
And we do also make sure we are do it in glass jars. I know a lot of people are kind of wary of plastic, so
Well, you know, but glass is healthier, honestly.
yeah, exactly. Glass is better. It's more expensive to
I seen a
ship, but
commercial the other day. It said prior to like 1980 something, you didn't see plastic bottles anywhere. It was all
no,
glass.
it was.
So I'm going to ask. I'm going to give you the floor for a minute. If there's anything about what you do and about the whole thing that is kind of like something you would like to share, just as something to people that want a message, or anything you want to get out to anybody that's personal to you about this.
I
and
would like
what
to
you
say,
do.
because the main thing that I get from people is the hesitation to enter into fermentation is the safety of it.
Right.
They're very concerned. Everybody's indoctrinated from the,
Right.
knee-high to a grasshopper that you're going to get botulism from fermented foods. And I've done the research on it. It is literally impossible. It is absolutely impossible to get it from fermentation. It is the safest form of food preservation. It is safer than raw vegetables. If anything goes wrong with your ferment when you're making it, you will see it. You will smell it. There's nothing secret or hiding inside of a ferment. And the reason behind that is the acids that form in here,
Right.
they're self-preserving. And as well as the bacteria that is in there is all good bacteria. And they take over the jar, they dominate, they get rid of any of the bad stuff that could possibly have come on the vegetables. It is the safest thing that you can consume, and it is like one of the healthiest things that you can consume. So I really just hope that people will do a little bit of their own digging so that they can justify to themselves how safe it is, because it is incredibly safe.
Awesome. Appreciate that very much, and that message, because I think that's a lot of people, especially if it's an unknown, or they didn't have that. What, I don't know about that. That they understand that it is safe. And
It is.
It's literally every kitchen can do this, and every person can do this. So, and that's a big thing, is finding those things. Because listen, I've thought about canning, and it's like, I know it's got to be exactly right. You've got to have all the right circumstances. And if you mess that up,
You're in
bad
trouble.
things happen.
Bad news bears.
And so finding a means that is easy and I don't got to worry about messing this up. So that's cool. So listen, I know we're going to probably see you out at other places throughout the year, and there's other events going on. So look forward to that as well. I hope that the expo has been kind to you.
Oh, yes. It's been a great place.
Right. So, you've been now homesteading for several years? Huh?
At least 5.
At least 5. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and we talked already about kind of what got you in that direction. I'll ask a question. I asked a lot of people this question. What do you kind of see as the direction or the growth, this movement in the homesteading that has occurred in the last few years? Do you see it continuing to go? Do you think this is like a fad? What do you?
I hope it continues.
Right.
It's a very gratifying way of life.
Right.
The just rampant consumerism and unfamiliarity with where everything that you consume comes from. It's very gratifying to go out in the spring and plant all your stuff and then harvest it in the fall, or to feed all of these animals that you're raising to feed yourself. And it's a very gratifying way of life. A lot of people are very they don't even know that beef comes from a cow.
Right.
And it's really sad, because it's an important thing. And I think that the health of meat and the health of fresh grown produce is so amazing for you that people should know, and they should take part in the growth of feeding their own selves and their families.
So awesome. Well, I appreciate that input and I appreciate that feedback because, I mean, it is, we're the same way. We think, it's the direction of thing. We have what we call a self-reliance scale, and 0 on that scale is everything is made for you. It's convenience stores, it's restaurants. You cook nothing at home. You buy everything at the box store if you do buy, all the way out to the 100% the other direction where everything is locally bought and everything is raised or produced yourself. And we find, like, we did an honest evaluation. We're pretty closer to that other side, where a lot of convenience and a lot of just buying and going and not growing stuff. And so I'll ask, I guess, in a sense, with 50-50 being kind of that split, where do you find yourself across that, do you think?
Including locally sourced, in towards the.
No, locally sourced is kind of more like, if you're buying from other farmers and stuff, that's more on that right side of that.
I would be probably 60% maybe, because I do consume a very specific diet, and I do I get most of my meat from our local farmers market. I don't really consume vegetables unless they're fermented.
So you're not in the box store just a whole lot of anything.
Not a whole lot. I try to avoid it. I mean, my business, obviously, that's a totally different story. But my personal life, my own personal life, and our family, I would say I'm personally probably about 60-40. My husband's probably the opposite, maybe like 40-60. He consumes a bit more of that stuff. Well, I'll still tell
you, you're probably further along on there than the vast majority of people. And
I do try.
I mean, we're at the beginning of it. We're starting, and it's like,
that's awesome.
We really know where we're at on this scale. I'm over here, and I'd like to get 50. If I could get 50-50, I'm thrilled.
Love it.
So it's awesome to talk to people that have already made that journey and are progressing there, because everything that's happened has let us know just how dependent we are on that and how dangerous that dependency is.
It really is very dangerous. And the only reason that I would say that I am like probably about 6 is the simplicity of what I consume. I don't consume anything. So
that makes a big difference. I mean, when you reduce the amount of items you need, it really does.
It does help. Yeah.
And maybe we ought to try that. I don't know.
It makes life a lot easier.
Right. Well, anyway, I appreciate your time so much, coming over, sharing with us about the fermentation process a little bit, and kind of the safety of this and where they can find you and everything. And I hope that, again, that this place treated you well. And
absolutely. I'm having a blast. And
we appreciate your time with that. And folks, listen, it's that simple. It's that simple. I mean, anybody can do this. It's another one of those things that is not complicated, and it's got a ton of health benefits. And as we said, the gut biome, 80% of your immune system starts there. So that's a big reason in and of itself to consider this, is if you can get healthy from the inside out and reduce that dependency. So I appreciate, again, your time. We're going to wrap this, and we're up every video. We'll say, prepare for the unexpected, and then we'll go, keep it local, and we kind of drag that out. So we're gonna end that fast. If you want to chime in, if you don't, that's fine too. But
I'll pass because I'm gonna screw it up.
Oh well, we do it all the time. Anyway, all right, folks. There's another fine interview. We appreciate her coming on as an expert in what she does with fermentation and the promotion of the homestead lifestyle. So again, folks. Glad to have you with us. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like, subscribe, share, all those great and wonderful things. Go on over to the Fermented Homestead and check out her YouTube channel and learn more about all of this stuff and see what's up in the world of fermentation and homesteading going on over there. So anyway, as we always say at the end of every show here on the Farm to Table Direct Show, prepare for the unexpected and keep it local.